Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm here with the legendary Keith with My Architectural Glass. We've been making content, as you know, on various platforms for many years. Keith longer than I, but it's pretty sweet that we're now here on the same channel, podcast, if you will. And I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. This is only my third podcast that I've hosted. So forgive me if I don't have the right etiquette, but I'm going to do my best anyway.
Well, I'm excited and I don't care about the etiquette. I'm just anxious to hopefully capture lightning in a bottle.
Well, I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I guess we'll just play it like this. So I'm going to ask you a series of questions. You just answer them honestly. There are not very many questions. It shouldn't be too long of a podcast. And then you can ask me, and I'll answer honestly.
I hope so.
Right. Okay. So just the basic questions that I ask everybody in
Yeah.
regards to and glazing. So, what is your origin story? How did you get into the glazing industry?
Okay. I'm so happy you asked this because anytime I get asked this, I get an opportunity to pay homage to my parents. I'm currently 48 years old, even though I don't look it. When I was 12 years old, started in Massachusetts, Western Massachusetts. Myself, my younger brother, I was 12 years old. My brother was 8 at the time. Mom and dad, real blue collar area in Western Massachusetts. My mother was a neighborhood beautician. She cut people's hair in the basement of our home. And my father was a alarm salesman where he sold, it was kind of like a knockdown version of ADP. It was called Sonatrol up in Western Massachusetts. And I was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, cancer. And my parents didn't have any insurance. They had enough money to keep a roof over our head and take care of my brother and I, but that was about it. And it really pushed them into a position to say, holy shit, if we want to get our child the care that he needs to hopefully, come out of this, either need a windfall of cash or, a miracle. And what they did is they leaned into it. They took equity out of their home and they started a business. And that business ended up a year later affording them enough capital to put me into the Boston Children's Hospital and eventually go into remission. And so when I have an opportunity to say this, I tell people it was a true blessing in disguise. Me getting cancer was the best thing that ever happened to my family. And now you fast forward, 34 years later, I'm in remission, but my brother and I ended up growing up in an entrepreneurial family in Western Massachusetts. And that business they started was a home service business where they did closet shelving and shower doors. And you fast forward about 18 years later, my mother was going out to get the mail. She hates me telling this story. She's going out to get the mail. There was a sheet of ice over the driveway. For those of you down here in Florida that don't know what the hell that is, when it rains at night and it gets really cold, there's this black ice. She went out and she fell back and like broke her wrist. And she came in and told my father, "That's it. We're moving to Florida." And he's like, okay, we started this business from nothing. We finally have something. We're just gonna move to Florida. And son of a bitch, maybe 3 years later, that ended up happening. They sold their house, their business, the building that was in, and they kind of retired. And my brother and I had saved up enough money to open a version of what we grew up in down here in Southwest Florida, and that was in 2003, and it's really been, like, almost straight up ever since then. So that's how it started, and I'm very grateful for my parents and brother to stick together during that so-called tragedy that ended up being the best thing that ever happened to our family.
Oh, that's incredible. I had no idea. Sharon.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really cool story. I mean, now it is. At the time, I got 2 kids now and I'm running a business. I couldn't imagine having to cope and I'm sure you know the same, to have something like that happen to your child while you're trying to chase your dreams and aspirations and manage a business, which, let's face it, you have to be borderline crazy to be a business owner as it is. And then to kind of throw that dynamic into it, I couldn't imagine. I couldn't imagine, but I'm grateful that they were able to. And here we are now. So as long as people keep showering, we should be doing okay.
Yeah, I think we'll be all right.
Yeah.
Okay, right on. So, as far as glazing in the glass industry, when you first got going in this specific industry, what was your favorite thing to do? What was your favorite job as a beginner?
Okay. That's a great question. installing. I wasn't much of a student in school. Matter of fact, I loathed school. I couldn't wait to get out of school and get to work. And I really like to work with my hands. So installing the shower enclosures, even when I was up north before I came down, was just a perfect fit for me. I don't know if it was the creativity or the construction and then, the hit of dopamine upon finishing it and having the customer come in and go, "Oh my god, I can't believe you just built this. It's beautiful." I can't put my finger on what the exact dynamic of it was, but I just liked it. I liked the working and the building and the camaraderie with the teammates. So when we started in '03, I took on the position of doing all the installs. Uh, Dad and Doug would work the showroom, book appointments, and then Doug and I would go out. He'd drop me off at an install. He'd run and go do an appointment. He'd come back and help me lift the door if I needed it. And it went that way for a couple years until we started selling enough doors where, Jay Ryback, who's in a lot of videos with me. He's our longest tenure employee. He's been with us over 25 years. So him and I would do all the installs for the first 4 or 5 years, and then we train all the new installers when they were coming in. And I just always loved doing the installs. But I'm sure it's really a young man's game. I mean, carrying the glass up and down, getting in and out, your knees and back over time it just end up taking a beating. And so I moved into sales, which I really love to do because there was nuances there that I was not privy to. But after being in sales long enough and you realize that there's so many different levels of sales. You have your order takers, and then, you have people that know a little bit about emotional intelligence, and then you have top tier people. And I was lucky enough to meet some of those people when I was going to houses, and I'd quickly identify that, wow, this is somebody that really has their shit together. And I'd want to inspire to be someone like that. Which reminds me of a quote that one of these customers had told me, and it's so true. He said, "Keith, don't ever take advice as you're growing your business. Don't ever take advice from somebody you wouldn't switch places with in that specific skill set or thing." Meaning, I'm not going to take business advice from somebody that's never owned a business. Just that wouldn't make any sense, right? And I never forgot that because I learned that lesson the hard way a couple times before. Family members that really, they have a big heart and they have your interest in mind, but they don't really know what it is that you're trying to achieve. And so you're just wasting time taking advice from people that just don't have any experience in that specific thing that you're chasing. I started off in the installs and then morphed into the sales. My true passion, much like you, is the social media now because because it helps with the sales. And I'm sure we'll get into that.
Yeah, yeah. So that kind of led me to the next question, which you basically just answered is like, what is your favorite job now? And it sounds like those are sales and content,
Yeah,
right?
100%.
Yeah, I have a very similar path. So I started when I was 15 years old. I was in high school still. I was too young to actually legally work, but my auntie was the office manager at this small glass company, right? So they gave me a chance. I worked in the shop for a couple of years. It was a growing shop, so we had a polisher and a cutting table and a drill press, and it ended up becoming the size of a football field with all the stuff. This was like years ago, but 15 years ago or more, right? So I was a part of this entire growth cycle, and I did every single job there is to do, from every position in the shop to eventually shop manager. And then we have what are called measurers, right? So there's guys like order takers, right? Like they do nothing but go out and measure. We had like 3 or 4 of them, and I was one of them. Right. So after installing for so many years, I started doing that for so many years. And back then, it was like, uh, people wrote checks, and we had clipboards, right? And we'd write up these things with these paper, whatever. And so, like, the goal was to come back with checks. So you'd go measure
Best
the shop.
feeling in the world, too, by the way, right?
Yeah, you call the office. Okay, this I got a door panel, brush nickel, this big, and they'll give you a price over the phone, and then you sell it to the customer. And if you get them to write you a check, then that's the ticket right there, man.
You walk a lot taller out of the house than you did into the house, that's for sure, especially when you got the check.
Yeah. So after doing that for so many years, I ended up just going full blown sales and did the sales manager thing, commercial sales director, blah blah blah. This company had blown up to maybe 300 employees by now. So then I moved to a smaller company, which is Baron Glass. So yeah, I'm kind of on a similar path there, but we can circle back to that. Oh yeah, by the way, funny story. I'm jumping the gun, but fuck it, why not? So the reason I even like doing what we're doing right now is because the very first smartphones, we used to have the flip phones or the walkie talkies and then the flip phones. And then the very first smartphone that had a camera in it kind of blew my mind. So I started taking pictures of the shower doors that I would install or the guys would install. And I started keeping them like in a file, and I figured out how to put them on a Kindle Fire, which is what people had before iPads. And then I would take that Kindle Fire to my measure appointments. And people were just like blown away, like, what? You have pictures on this tablet? That's crazy, right? So anyway, like that kind of just like spiraled and it just kept going and going until eventually I make, you know, cinematic content about glazing, to this day. It just gets better every year.
It's so true. It almost seems like yesterday that I would sit at a customer's home at their dining room table. If you were lucky enough to be, you know, invited to a customer's house to do a presentation and a measure, I'd sit down at the table and it was a picture book. Not Polaroids, but the pictures from a still camera, and we're flipping through darn panels. I got 5 or 6 of them here. And then I remember that first reaction when we went in too. Yeah, it was like with the tablets weren't out yet, but it was like a Kindle. And their reaction was like, "Holy shit. You must be really good at what you're doing if you're so far advanced that you could have photos of your work on this electronic device." That was a cool experience. Just to touch on that, when we go out and measure still to this day, because we're talking about the progression and the evolution of going into the house, we don't use a tape measure when we're measuring showers. We have you remember the masons, the people that like do concrete or brickwork, these folding sticks that you kind of fold them all in out. And at the end of one of them, there's this little sidebar that kind of slides out. So if you're in between the tile, you can slide out and go up and down. I'm telling you, still to this day, customers will go, "Oh my God, I haven't seen one of those since my grandfather had one." And that tool itself, you wouldn't believe how much either nostalgia or rapport, it's almost like a common ground thing that is never spoke about. But soon as they see it, they think of these memories of when being a child and a family member was using them, and they associate it with something positive. And as you know, in sales, that's gold. And
Mhm.
so we still use those to this day, but we've advanced in many other aspects, like you said, digitally and, you know, paperless, if you will, going out to these measurements. But sorry to
Yeah,
cut you off.
that is where it's at, man. Like this thing right here is with me at all times. I like to use the iPad Mini, the newest one, because it's like tiny. Like if I could hold it in one hand easily, right? I could do whatever I got to do. Fits right inside my tiny measuring bag with all my tiny lasers, so I travel like super light. So yeah, man, I'm all for it, man. I'm pretty stoked about
You're
all
like
this new
Inspector
technology.
Gadget. You got all the cool widgets and toys. I'm super jealous of all the stuff you have.
Huh. Yeah, I thought about making a video about all the stuff that I have that for glazing specifically. I'm sure people would be interested in that.
You got to use that Inspector Gadget song. The music for Inspector Gadget. That'd be perfect.
Yeah, that's what they used to call me when I had my clipboard. Because of course, when you had to write on paper, you have to have like 10 copies of every form that you use, whatever kind of glass you're
Yeah.
measuring. Like my rulers, highlighters, pens, angle finders, like all jam packed into one clipboard. Right? I was super proud of. All right. Well, let's move on to the next phase, talking about content creation specifically. So, again, starting over, how did you get into content in the first place?
This is funny. And I'm sure a lot of people out there are still like this, but I was one of those because I was installing, just moving into sales. And I was one of these kind of creature habit guys. Like, I'm not on social media. People don't need to know what I'm eating for lunch, and they don't need to know what I'm doing every day because I was unaware of the power of the social media. So I fought it for the longest time. It wasn't until 2017 that I was even open-minded about getting on it, and it was my mother who came to me and said, "Keith, you need to get on social media. Pick one platform." She wasn't trying to real push me to go across the board because she's like, "If I could just get him to open his mind to get on social media," she goes, "You need to watch this video. I think you'll like this guy. He's young, he's ambitious, he swears. And it was Gary V. And she showed me, I watched on her phone. I remember watching the video, and it kind of just, the light bulb went off, because that's what I was watching him say is not the picture I had of social media, because I was just used to my spouse or people around talking about Facebook. So and so's at dinner. I wasn't thinking about using it as a business tool. And so I watched that video and I says, holy shit, I'm in. I got on LinkedIn, was the first platform I got on. And I remember saying to her,
What year was that approximately? Just out of curiosity. 2017. Okay.
2017 is when I got on. And I said to her, how many I'm a goal oriented guy. I said, how many connections, or followers would be considered like good? And she's like, oh man, if you could like acquire like 2,000 connections, that'd be unheard of. I think she was just really priming me, because none of us in the family or business were using social media at this point for the business at all. So I got on there, I was watching Gary Vee, and I have an addictive, obsessive personality as it is. I quickly started, like, I was all in. I was connecting with people. I made it a goal to try and acquire 1,000 connections a month. And I proceeded to do that for a couple years. And I was making content. I was just doing like a one little selfie video a day. And that was the hardest part for me. And I think it's probably the hardest part for most, was getting over the fact of being judged by everybody else. Especially when you don't have a following, you're starting to get on social media, that there's benefits, but you also feel like there's kind of a long tail approach, and you kind of got to get over the fear of being judged. I mean, there was people in my closest circle, and I'd be happy to name drop some of them. My brother, Bryce, my father would, he was never short on saying, oh, you can't post that. That's over the line. But my mother was always the one that was in my corner saying, no, 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 do your thing, get as much attention as you can, and put as much stuff out there as you can. And I would be afraid in public of doing videos, because, there's that vanity component. People are going to judge me. I quickly got over that when I was first recognized somewhere. I only had maybe 1,000 followers, and we went to a restaurant. He's like, oh, it's the shower door guy. And I felt like $1,000,000. He didn't even know my name. He just knew me as the shower door guy. And I felt like that one comment solidified. I said, I will never not be on social media. I understand the power of it now. And then it
Yeah.
kind of just grew from there.
Yeah. People, they don't like, I feel like the biggest thing for people is nobody likes the way that they look and nobody likes the way that they sound. But really, you just gotta get over that. And yeah, you are a recognizable guy. So I remember, I don't know if you remember, probably not, but I think it was in Atlanta maybe 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago. I don't know, maybe 3 years ago. Whatever Glassbill was in Atlanta, maybe not last time, maybe the time before that. I'm not positive, but I remember I saw you at Glassbill. I was like, holy shit, that's fucking Keith. So I ran over. Let's take a selfie, and then I don't. You probably don't recall, but you were like, yeah, I'm here to
I think
speak.
it
I'm a,
was in a breezeway. It wasn't
yeah,
actually it was out like in the hallway, right? You were with a couple other guys. I
yeah,
remember.
yeah. You were like, oh yeah, I know. You guys seen your stuff, man. Keep it up. You're like, you just keep doing it, man. And that was years ago, and here we are today, like full circle. So yeah, that's pretty crazy.
That's cool. You know,
All right.
there's a vanity component to social media that I think a lot of people want. That's why they always talk about views and, how many views and virality. But the kind of the untold story that I see, because I'm still an active salesperson while doing the content creation, is what I realized was, uh, there's a old sales guru named Dale Carnegie, and he used to talk about touches. If you meet somebody for the first time and you're gonna ask them to give you money for your goods and services, there's this kind of 7 to 10 touch ratio on average over the course of all your new relationships that you're gonna talk to them. Maybe they come in the showroom, then you go to their house. You might do a couple email communications, and what's really happening during that time frame is building rapport, because they need a shower door. We offer shower doors. It just stands to reason, why aren't we doing business? But people have been burned by other people, and they need to know that they can trust you. And so the fastest way to building trust is through rapport building. And what I found, and many people have talked about this before, obviously I'm not the first one, but producing consistent content. If I'm putting out, let's say on average, 4 to 5 pieces of content a day, whether they're long form, short form, 5 pieces a day, 5 days a week, that's 25 pieces a week. If I happen to meet, now remember, Dale Carnegie said you only need 7 to 10 touches. If I meet a customer, whether it's in the showroom or in their home, and they recognize me from social media, we're going pen to paper, either usually the first or at the latest second touch. And it's not because I'm some master negotiator or doing some wizardry. It's that rapport building that Dale Carnegie talked about back in the day about getting those 7 to 10 touches, because they already, once they identify, oh man, you're the same person I see on the camera, I trust you. I quickly realized, like, man, this is like shooting fish in a barrel. None of my competitors here in Southwest Florida are doing social media like I do. Like, some of them post pictures, and that's good and everything, but that's not helping on the sales side because they're not getting to know you. You know, when you and I are talking in front of a camera, people can quickly identify, oh, I like what Brandon has to say. That's interesting. That's somebody I would trust. I have similar beliefs as him. I like his ambition. He's, if you're a consistent creator, it's also telling them, well, he's consistent. He's willing to play the long game. He's driven. He's ambitious. He takes a lot of pride in what he does. And I can get a hold of him at any time, literally 24/7. Somebody can message me. And
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. I had that conversation with Jim Young because he posts prolifically, like way more than I do. And he kind of has the same thing where like people come into the showroom and they already know who he is. And it's that thing, it's that 7 touches. I think when it comes to that's like personal touches. I think when it comes to like social media, it's more like 14 to 15.
yeah,
But if you're putting out content every single day and a couple months go by, they probably seen your face at least 20, 30, 40 times. That makes a difference alone. So I'm not nearly as like recognizable like in the market. My goal is never to go viral. I'm only delivering a specific message to a specific person. But once somebody sees it, like they'll see like the work and they'll see the person behind the work. And I 100% agree with you that, having nice pictures of your work is good. And, cinematic videos are cool. Cinematic edits are even cooler.
yes.
But the best you could do is actually just talk to the camera. And it doesn't even matter what your personality is because your people will be attracted to you. Like the way I'm talking to you now, the same way I talk to the camera every single time. So like when someone talks to me in person, it's the same thing, right? It's like getting to know your audience or your customer base well in advance. And you're right. It's like easy. It's easy to sell after that.
I like how you said you're not doing it with the intention of going viral, because neither do I. Now, I'd be lying if I didn't say I wouldn't mind if my videos went viral, but that's not my intention when I do it. That actually kind of goes against what the term means in itself. Like, if it's going to go viral, it will on its own. I'm going out there consistently every day to put something out, and I'm hoping to attract to the audience in which I want to do business with. Which, if you've seen any of my content, you know that I like to laugh. I like to showcase our team. I like to showcase our factory. I really love, like, you do an amazing job showing the process from shop drawings to installation to a finished product and talking over to that's my favorite type of content. I haven't been able to do that yet, which I want to, but you can't go wrong with posting anything, but it's best if your voice and face can be in the video. I think that's what helps on the sales side. But trying to go viral kind of goes against the whole term in itself.
It wouldn't matter anyway because how many people are actually looking for shower doors, right? It's like I do a lot of I'm trying to be YouTuber. I'm semi consistent, but like they have a saying in YouTube where there's like a such thing as like viral and there's viral for me, right? So if my videos only get like 20 views per video and I get one that gets 500, that's viral for me.
Yeah.
And I fully realized that there's not enough people for someone like us to go viral of the right customer. It's better to have, a thousand true fans than a million non-true fans because those people are not going to do business with you anyway, right?
Percent. I've had two videos. that got one got 3.5 million. You know what happened the next day? I didn't get any more followers. Our emails weren't flooded with new business opportunities. Like nothing changed. Nothing changed other than the flex of me saying I got a video to go that, which it didn't equate to money or any new opportunities. So it just,
Yeah, it's a vanity metric, right? And
it's
it's
a
almost
100% a vanity metric.
designed to make you feel bad because you're always competing against
Yeah.
other, because then that's like the platforms, whatever platform, that's their way to motivate you to keep making content, even though a million likes and views doesn't necessarily equate,
You only
right?
need one.
Yeah.
2021, my brother's a pilot. Yeah, is a hobby. He's a pilot. And we had this little plane. I'm saying it like little plane. Two people could barely fit into it, but we would drive it to the other stores up the west coast of Florida. It was just quicker. He could fly, and you're under 10,000 feet. You can still do emails. So I get in the plane and we're getting ready to take off. And I do this video. And I said, hey, because I asked Doug, how fast does it go? What's the range of Florida? He goes, we can be anywhere in the state of Florida in under 90 minutes. I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. So I pull up the selfie video. I says, if you're anywhere in the state of Florida, we can be there in under 90 minutes. And if the price is right, we'll fly tonight. Okay. It got 75 views. Now I'm in the plane. So I'm thinking, okay, it's a plane. Maybe more people will like, the algorithm, you know how you judge everything. 75 views. But 2 days later, I get a call from an architect that lives in Naples, but is also in Big Sky, Montana. And he says, hey, I'm out in Big Sky, Montana in this development called the Yellowstone Club, real premier Tom Brady, Bieber, Bill Gates. He goes, we're building a spec house. The builder's from Naples, but he's got a spec property. And the glass that there's like 12 bathrooms and there's glass companies out here, but I've already kind of asked them, stuff's oversized. A couple of them are 12 foot tall. And the glass companies we talk to, it's just outside their wheelhouse of what they're comfortable. So we're going to have to transport somebody in anyway. And I've seen some of your content and would, would you be willing to come out here if we paid to fly you out here and measure these? And I was like, it really doesn't even make sense from a business standpoint for us to do that because I'm taking resources from here and going out there. I don't have our factory out there. We don't have our network of people if anything goes wrong. But I couldn't help it. I couldn't believe that somebody saw this video and was willing to have us go out there. So we went out there and I measured. We got the job. It was a $250,000 job. I flew back. We made the glass, crated it up, had it freighted out to Big Sky, Montana. Had an opportunity to take like 6 of the installers, which was a great bonding moment because like 4 of the guys never even left the state of Florida. So, we flew out there, we knocked it out. Every piece went in perfect. I couldn't believe it. We ended up doing 3 more jobs for this guy over the next 2 years out there. And I got 1 more coming in the second quarter of next year. But this was all off a video that only got 75 views. And 50 of those are the same people that watch every single one of your videos. You know what I mean? So it really only needs one person.
So what would you say the total value from that one customer is at this point in time?
Oh, it's close to a million. The first one was quarter million. 950, almost $1 million by the time that we get to
75
this.
can mean $1 million.
Yes, yes. And then the exposure from this, because this architect and builder has been telling everybody about this. We've done 3 houses. He goes, these guys travel from Florida, no chips, scratches, or mismeasures. Now I'm probably setting myself up for failure on the next one. However, because of the network of people I've garnered through like Instagram and LinkedIn, if when I go out there, one piece doesn't fit, I got a buddy out in, it's like Bozeman that owns a glass shop that's just dying to do a collaboration. So I know he'd help me if we had to. But 75.
So I got a similar story as well. I'll name drop. I don't care. So one of my good clients, Tim, I can't say your last name, Tim. I'm sorry if you're watching this, but Tim is big time into Instagram. His company is called All Review Construction. And I remember like it was yesterday. It was maybe 2 years ago. maybe 3. I don't know. I lose track of time. But anyway, Tim, he likes to post stuff on Instagram. He always has. And like I remember it was GCS Glass and myself, like we were kind of commenting on his photos. And like I think it was Chance Foreman. Chance, I'm sorry. With Chance is like, oh yeah, that's some nice glass. You should hit us up if you want to. And I remember like right after that, I was like, hey man, I really like how you guys have matching bevel clamps matching to the hinges. And I like how you place the clamps, like basically complementing the way that the glass was designed rather than going right in for the kill. And then like maybe a month or two later, I made a video. It was like a time lapse of me designing a arch top inside a CAD. It was a pretty shitty video. I thought I just slapped it together really quick. But anyway, Tim reached out to me on Instagram. He's like, hey man, you guys do arch tops? I was like, yeah, man. Anyway, all it took was him reaching out to me. I got on the call with him, and I think it was like maybe $500,000 so far that we've done with him. Uh,
That's good.
yeah, yeah, right. And that's just one story, right? And that's like very similar to what you're talking about. Like probably my shittiest video, worst edit, whatever. I don't even think I was on the video. It was just a time lapse of the thing. But yeah, that's all it took was just once.
I
And
want to
there's all kinds of
compliment.
stories. We could probably talk for 12 hours straight with stories like that, right?
Yes, but I want to compliment you on this because I think this should be a PSA for people out there on social media. I loathe when I do a post and somebody comes, and by the way, I welcome all types of comments because I've gotten all types of comments. But when somebody comes in my comments on a post that I did to pitch their business, that to me is taboo. Like that's a no-no. Is that as far as like social media etiquette, if you're gonna, I just think it's tacky. The way you approached it is you're leaning in, delivering empathy, like, oh man, I love what you did here. Like, you don't need to ask for the business. The shortcut to actually getting the opportunity is what you did. Bringing some value to the post that he took the time to do and celebrate it. Because when anybody does a post on social media, what we all want to see, and they've got Netflix specials about this, is we want to see the notification come up with a comment that is more than just like a fist bump or fire, but is articulating something that's going to generate more conversation, just like you did. And I guarantee that stuck with him because when he did that post, that's what he's hoping for, some type of comment where other people can jump on the train and it's starting to have some discussion versus, oh, hey, if you ever need a cheaper price or somebody that can do it quicker, hit us up. I delete those. I don't even allow them to stay in the feed. It drives me nuts. So I commend you on doing that. And you should be celebrated by getting that job because you did it the right way. You didn't selfishly hijack his post to benefit your company. And
Yeah,
I think that's a big thing.
with its sales, which I get those all the time too, like to this day from people trying to sell hardware and whatnot. And I just
Yeah.
delete those.
Delete. You triggered the reciprocity dynamic by celebrating his post. And whether you knew that or not, I think that's the emotional intelligence behind that.
Yeah, and it was exactly the kind of customer that we work for. We're in the same neighborhood, so I knew that sooner or later we were going to cross paths, and we
Good for
certainly
you.
did.
That's awesome. Cool.
Okay, so all right, I got a couple more questions for you. Currently, what camera gear do you use?
Okay, well, I just got, and I can't even believe I'm showing you this because it's not even in the case right now. I got the
Oh,
new iPhone Pro Max. It just feels better without the protection. You know what I'm saying?
dude, you know what? I just convinced Ryan. Ryan, Ryan Shoemaker. We were doing maybe it was just last week. He's like, yeah, I was thinking about getting a new iPhone. I think I'm on the iPhone 12 or 13. And I was like, dude, if there was ever a year to get an iPhone, it's this year. I told him for one specific reason, because the selfie screen that you're looking at me on right now to record this video is now a 12 megapixel camera, and it can record in horizontal or square or vertical without rotating it because it records the whole sensor. So
That's
for
right.
that, get that camera. And I think he did. I'm positive when I have a meeting with him later this week, the quality will be better on that selfie screen.
That's cool. There's a lot of, I'm sure there's a ton of features in here that I'm not even aware of. One of the ones that I like, besides the one you talk about, is having the dual camera. I think that's unbelievable because I do a lot of like green screens where I got to video something and then I kind of just commentate on it over on a green screen, but having the dual camera where you can actually video, I could be videoing a job site while recording myself talking about it, not only for content, but we use this for a lot of our installers because, the more information an installer can have before he goes to the job site, the better they are. They don't have the fear of the unknown. And what better way to add context to a potential installation than having a video? And so I use the iPhone 17 Max for all my kind of like goofy stuff that I do, which is a majority of my content. But I have a Sony, I think it's the AC or C. I don't know what kind of lens I had. You're more up to speed on this.
It's probably a full frame camera, a full
Yeah,
frame. Probably have a ginormous lens on there.
yeah, yeah. And so I
Yeah,
have like 3 or 4 of these in for our podcast studio. I'm on a MacBook here at my home. I use these wireless Rode microphones a lot. Great quality. Great quality. So you can plug one in the phone or one into the computer and the other one's wireless. It comes with a couple of them. But the
nice.
phone is my go-to. I literally get a panic attack. I would rather lose my wallet than lose my phone.
You know, I, I'm in the same boat. Look, I got mine. I had to go with
Exactly.
silver because because it's aluminum this year, so that felt like the silver wouldn't show scratches as easy.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I first saw that feature where like you talk, where you can record yourself on the screen while you record something, I immediately thought of you. I was like, oh my god,
This
Keith
is
is gonna have
cool. Yeah.
a day, and I should too, man. I like using the phone, but I really like the process of like using the cameras and doing all this. 1,000% unnecessary, but I just like doing it.
Yeah. You're an artist. I get it.
Yeah.
I
All
want to ask
right.
you a question.
Okay.
Just because this is a perfect segue. It's obvious to me that you love content creation and everything that goes into that, whether it's the equipment, the artistic portion of it, but you're an earner and somebody that needs to be involved in the business because you have an important role there. How do you balance the two? Because they're both massively important, not only to satisfy your personal needs selfishly, but you need to bring in the money for not only you and the business.
Well, so it really wasn't that bad because I've been doing it for years already. Like I've been, posting to Facebook and Instagram on House when House was first a new thing, like for years, right? For the company that I worked for before now. And it wasn't uncommon for me to just, edit photos and edit videos on my own time and like post them because I just like doing it. So I guess to answer your question is like you make time for what you want to do, right? So
Yes.
I think I even made a video about this. It was a short form video where I was like, you could spend your Sundays doing this. And I showed a screenshot of the catfish mother in law or mother who was, you know, messaging her daughter. And I showed a screenshot of each of them. And I was like, well, wouldn't you rather be doing this? So that's basically like my way of saying, like, I'm not watching Netflix all day and all night. I'm not doom scrolling. Like I'm actually creating. I still do those things, but I feel like we should be creating at least as much as we scroll. So in other
Consume
words,
but
yeah,
create.
yeah, consume but definitely create. So I guess like while most people are doom scrolling, I just turn half of that time into creating, and I'm basically above average. That and coming up with systems that help me do things faster. So I can like edit like a ninja. I batch everything, right? So I have a high respect for you for making as much content as you do. I was like, damn, I don't know how he does it. So like when I do it, I batch, right? So I'll film like 4 or 5, maybe more videos all in a row. That's just one filming day. And then I'll have like one day where I just edit and do captions or whatever. And then I spread them out over time and I kind of alternate like my own content and Bearing Glass content, which on my LinkedIn is basically one of the same. So like I have like these two different things. I just alternate them and it just extends the life. So I'm not like burnt out. So like this podcast that we're doing right now, you'll probably see it for like 2 to 3 months out into the future. Just the snippets of it. Of course, I'll put the full version on my YouTube, but like with these, especially, I like to basically kind of condense it into 10 minutes and do one post on LinkedIn. And then from now on, every time a snippet goes out or a short form, I'll always link it back to the original video. But what we're doing right now is basically providing me with a content every other weekday for the next 2 months, right? We're doing it right now, right?
So smart. So smart. I love doing the podcast as well for the exact reasons that you said, but I really like to even do it with potential customers that I'm trying to acquire because that vanity component is massively powerful. If you recognize a builder or an architect that you want to do work with that is on social, but they're not posting a lot, but you see them on there, anytime I think I've counted the other day, I've had 24 different guests that are customers. Like I've had a ton of guests that they're just guests, but ones that I've actively were like targeting, invited them in. There hasn't been one of those people that came in that we're not doing business with now. And part of it, the vanity, but it triggers this reciprocity. It's like, okay, well, he spent 45 minutes filming and asking questions about my business and then took the time to edit it and is putting it out there. And I got to buy glass anyway. Why wouldn't I buy it from somebody that I trust, but it's also helping promote my business? And it's almost a no-brainer. It was like cheating, which is kind of reminding me, why am I not doing more of that? The podcast is great for creating long-term amount of content. I can only imagine how many different shorts that you'll be able to clip up out of this so far.
Well, so far, quite a bit. So I just got one more basic question for you in regards to content. So how often do you make content? How often are you posting today?
Okay, across all the different platforms, I just looked, I have 4 different posts out today. Now, this ranges from a couple static photos of a job to kind of I did a funny video where it's got me climbing up a ladder and it says, I copycat a lot of these ones that are trending, by the way, and kind of put the glass spin on it. But it says, you can deny PTO, but you can't deny disability. And it's kind of got me like pretending to fall back off okay, so that's 2. I did a time lapse one. And then the 4th one, I've started getting into this rage baiting a little bit where the guys were installing a piece of glass in these 2 glass vices. Shout out Glass Vice, which by the way, I use all types of hardware all across the board, but this job was spec for Glass Vice. The installer is Daniel is taking the glass and going and setting in the Glass Vice. And at the top of the screen, we put, watch the installers accidentally drop this piece of glass off the side of the building or something to this effect. And these type of headlines garner a lot of comments and views. That video was posted at like 12 o'clock today. I'm looking at it right now. It just hit 10,000 views on the reel on Instagram, 10,000. Now, I don't know if it has to do with the, watch this, like people want to see, I think, bad things happen on these jobs.
Yeah,
I'm noticing a pattern with some of these. We're carrying big mirrors and all of a sudden we're getting all these comments of people hating, and I think they're just waiting for them to break. But I'm posting on average 4 to 5 times a day.
that's incredible.
Well, it's incredible, Brendan, compared to what you're doing. 95% of it is just done on the phone. Here's more of a long form piece of content where the quality of yours is 1,000 times better than the quality of mine. I'm going to get to that point once I have a full-time person, which is my mission in 2026, to have a full-time camera person following me around for the first half of the day, second half of the day, just chopping up, 7 to 10 pieces of content. So, like, which one's better? Would I rather have high quality, like the ones you're taking that take time, more of a story, kind of showcases everything because it draws people in? Or do I want a combination of that? And I like to do these funny things. I think there's kind of a secret little nuance with the humor. I read a statistic out of a Harvard kind of post where it said human beings are 31% smarter in a positive frame of mind. And so making somebody laugh while they're thinking about, man, is this a glass person I'd like to use? If you're 31% smarter, you're going to have a tendency to make better decisions, be more collaborative. So I think there's something to that. But
Yeah,
I don't,
you're hilarious. So like the posts that you do, especially with the trends, like doing the trends and making people laugh, like you have like a huge following, and it just keeps exploding and exploding. I'm not quite doing that yet, but I was thinking about trying it. I don't really like chase trends, just because I'm so busy, and like usually what drops today, that whatever, and on any of my channels, I probably made it a month ago, right? So it's like by the time I chase a trend, it's already over. I'm already like 2 months into the future, like right now, right? Like I'm time traveling. But I kind of like, so like with me, I treat our Instagram like a online showroom, because it is like we don't even have a showroom. And so when people call, like, hey, you got a showroom? We're like, no, but here's, go check out our Instagram, right? Or I even use it now in the same fashion that we used to use the Kindle Fire. When I go to somebody's house and they have a specific product that they want to talk about, or a specific problem that they have, chances are I've already had that problem and I've already solved it and documented it. And I said, hey, do you have Instagram on your phone? Open your phone and I'll just send them a link to that video. And like it works almost every single time. There's never been a single time where I sent somebody an Instagram video that I made solving their specific problem where they didn't buy from us. So,
That's
and
interesting.
on the back end, even beyond views, social media is powerful in that way.
That's interesting. You know, that reminds me, one thing that I was doing back in 2017 that now that you're saying this is kind of putting it together. When I would get a request from a quote from somebody or a new lead would come in through the website and their cell phone number was on there, I would, instead of just replying through the email or through a text, I would shoot a selfie video and send it back to them. And I feel like by doing that, it really humanized the situation because now I'm not just a commodity like the rest of them, sending them a number and they're judging what glass shop they're gonna use off by the same numbers and proposals. Now there's a like, "Oh my god, this guy sent me a video," and it just I think it set me apart. And so when you say send them, links from a video that you've already documented, I think it's brilliant. I still to this day, when I get a new lead, I FaceTime everybody. I send selfie videos to everybody because I know that my competition's not doing that. And I think a lot of people, one of the biggest fears for everybody is the fear of the unknown. Think about, and especially with the way Netflix documents all these serial killers, and which, by the way, I love watching that stuff. But single mom sitting at home, she's going to have some random person that she's never met before come and give an estimate. I'm not saying it by sending videos that takes that off the table, but I think it quelches the anxiety of who's coming to my house. I got to have my defense mechanisms up just because for survival, let alone giving them my money. And so I,
And not that, but it's like because you have skin in the game, right? So if you have a personal brand or whatever social media,
yes,
then you have a certain level to perform to. Because if not, then you could be called out like in front of your audience. So that, like, in their mind, that's like incentive for you to do your work, even though you already were, but it just makes them trust you that much more when you have skin in the game in that aspect.
I remind our installers every week about what you just said. It says that Jay and I are on social media promoting this business. The catch is if we don't perform out on these installs to the way that we're perceived to be for performing through our social media, we go from trusted professionals to snake oil salesmen. And we don't want to do that. So, we're putting ourselves out there to garner more business, but we have to back it up when we go out there. Otherwise, it loses our credibility. Yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
definitely.
Yeah. So
All right. Well, I basically asked all the questions I wanted to ask for now. You got anything for me?
I do. I do. I have a couple good ones. You already answered the one, but this one, I'm curious to get your hot take on. Given the rising demand of glass railings, office partitions, wine cellars, what do you see being the next big thing for our glass industry? Let's say the next 3 to 5 years.
Ooh, that's a tough one because it's almost impossible to predict. But based on what I'm seeing now, I'm kind of like, at least in my neighborhood, I'm kind of seeing like, I'm seeing glass railings starting to be on the rise again. And I kind of just follow the trends. So I see like the grid doors
Yeah.
becoming increasingly unpopular. I sell tons of them, always have. And like we're basically taking business left and right from like steel people that do the similar look. So yeah, I see like heavy black gridded glass systems of all types being popular in the very near future, and that would include wine cellars, office partitions, shower doors. In fact, Frameless Hardware Company is onto something here. Andrew just told me that, and I verified it, that they actually have flat metal in satin brass and brushed bronze. So now we can do satin brass and brushed bronze grid doors and not just matte black. So if
That's
they're on
sweet.
the, then it's the grid doors, right? And I noticed that a lot of people are, it's like paying for the framed, like heavy framed shower doors, like the ones that used to be like the cheap pieces of shit back in the day. But now that same style is coming back, and the only difference is the extrusions are made out of brass and they're coated in polished nickel. Like people will pay any amount of money for that, and I think it's crazy. And they're not much different from what they used to be. So it's like the trends kind of make it full circle. So I guess to answer your question, it's more metal, more frames, and pretty much everything, all aspects of the trade being popular coming down the pipeline. Even mirrors, like we do a lot of framed mirrors. We get more and more requests for that. So basically, matte black, brush bronze, satin brass, polished nickel, framed anything glass seems to be popular now in the near future, from my perspective.
What about technology? Like we have an autoclave, we do a lot of our own laminate. You've installed plenty of laminate glass. Do you see kind of I don't know, I wouldn't say the technology on our phones, but you know, technology's everywhere. It's on the front door of my fridge. It's in our cars. It's in our pocket. Do you see it you got your door and panel. Is there some type, we have the switch light technology now, but do you see maybe even, am I scrolling through my Instagram post while I'm taking a shower in the morning? Do we see that coming up through there? Or is that kind of too far fetched?
I think that's too far fetched. So there's this company in town. They're called Glass Tech, and they sell all those kinds of products where you can shave, looking in the mirror, watch whatever. They have all these crazy glass products or films that you can put a computer screen on, but it's just too complicated and it's too limited. Obviously, none of it works at Apple, so nobody wants it probably. It's a pain in the ass to get up and get running, and the technology will not live as long as the glass product itself does. So a shower door should last you 5 to 10 years easy. A shower with the screen in it would be obsolete next month. So I don't think anything like that is in the near future. But what I do think is the way that we do things is getting better. So Rodney, you know my buddy Rodney,
I
the
love
technology
Rodney.
table. I've been working with him a long time. I remember he first came to the glazing industry. He would call me all the time to ask me questions about glass railings, and I would answer. And now he's killing it. Now he's got a new 3D artist now that can do these dope renderings for him to step up his game. I'm helping him with his social media to step up that game. So the measuring side. In fact, he was telling me about some new technology he wants to get, like one of the point scanners to basically be able to scan things more accurately and faster, which is pretty sweet. And he told me that they actually have drones now that can like fly and like scan things, but they're not accurate yet. Like they guarantee accuracy up to a quarter of an inch, but obviously that doesn't work for most things that need to be accurate. But the technology is there. And my buddy Ted with Guthrie AI, who I made content for at Glass Build, he's using AI on the estimating side, which I found to be incredible because I used to be an estimator, a commercial estimator, and I hated, absolutely hated going through thousands and thousands of pages of plans and put together this huge bid just to not get the job. So like the service that he's providing is incredible. And I actually sat at his booth and I tested his thing where they did the bid, just like they
Did you
normally
do
do it.
it?
Yeah, they take all the information, they condense it into Chat GPT basically. Then you talk to it and it can answer any questions that you want. Just the same way you ask it anything. You ask anything about that specific quote and it basically knows everything. It's crazy.
Yeah, I did that challenge. That was really cool.
Yeah.
Rodney, shout out Redline Templating, a job that another one I got off social media in Dubuque, Iowa. And I commissioned Rodney to go out there. This was an interior and exterior railings. I think it was a total of 43 panels. Fucking perfect. First time went out there, every single one where he measured. Not only did he measure, but he gave me shop drawings that I was able to give the customer for them to sign off on. Then he gave me the glass orders in I don't know if it's a
Yeah. So it's a
DXF
PDF.
file to go right to our factory. When Bryce made the glass, I never did a glass order. I didn't do any deductions. I met him out there. He does whatever he does like a wizard on that thing. And then we went out and installed it and it was perfect. I said, I'll never not use Rodney
You
ever again on jobs
know
like this.
what's about that and Roddy, I love you, buddy. This one's for you. So I remember when we first started doing it that way. So you remember, so standoff railings, for example, right? So back in the day, you'd have to go measure it, do all your manual deductions, figure out where the holes go. And it was never like in perfect alignment. So what did you have to do? You have to get the piece of glass, right, on some suction cups. You got to fucking lean it over and have somebody on the
Yeah.
other side physically mark the holes every single time, and it doesn't always work out. Well, with Rodney, he'll provide hardware locations, so you just physically measure and mark the standoffs per the drawing, slap the glass on, and it's perfect every time. It works for glass vise.
Perfect.
In fact, I just did a job in Steamboat Springs where I had Rodney do the same thing where we did, it was a combination of standoffs and a base shoe. And what he did for us is he provided us not only the locations for the standoffs, which we just measured the treads, center of treads, and they were perfect, but he also provided us with finished cut sizes of every piece of base shoe. So every piece of base shoe was cut to size. We just put together like Legos in the field, and it
Legos.
worked out.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So
Rodney.
technology is here if you use it right. So call Rodney if you want that for your job.
And very fairly priced too, by the way, especially comparatively speaking to how large the job was and how little risk I had after he did it. I will never not use Rodney on those big jobs like that ever again. All right, here's my last question for you, Brando. Whether it be through social media, content creation, or in business, try and think of one of the bigger mistakes you've made and what did you learn from that? Whether it be mismeasuring a job or not handling a situation right or something that you identified after it happened, like, damn, I really dropped the ball on that one.
So I think, damn, that's a tough one. You said you had a tough one for me. I didn't believe you. All right, let me think. So I got so many. So let me go back in time.
Like, if you could do it over again after thinking about this, if you could do it over again, figure out what the mistake was, and then if you had to do it over again, what would you do different?
Well, I think I would. I mean, the short answer is I probably would have started my own business a long time ago if I would have known what I was capable of. So my biggest mistake is I didn't bet on myself when I knew I should have. But it's okay. I'm still
That's
pretty
heavy.
well happy,
Yeah.
right? So that's probably one. But otherwise, probably the biggest mistake was I'll bring you way back to when I was an installer, or I used to work in the shop, right? And then I became an installer as an apprentice. And I had a key position in the shop. They call it a stager, right? So my job was to like basically watch production and make sure the glass was done that the guys needed to go out. Like we get our tickets 2 weeks in advance. And I was good at it. I was like fucking good at it. Like everything was perfect every time. I never missed. But anyway, I got my chance to go out into the field and I was learning and I was, doing my thing and killing it, of course, because I just like working with my hands like you. But anyway, what happened was is a new shop manager came in and they brought me back into the shop. So in my brain, I was like moving backwards and I was pissed. And so I ended up having a poor attitude and just not caring. And I almost got fired over it. But luckily, so the shop manager wanted to fire me, but luckily the owner of the company, back then, gave me a chance and he told me what it was. And I should have not had a bad attitude. I should have just did my job and should have been grateful. Even I should have took it as a compliment that they pulled me out of a job to do another job that I'd previously done because no one else could have did it. So that's one. Another one, fuck, it was just in my head and I lost it. Hold on.
That was a good
Oh
story.
yeah. Oh yeah. So this is another one. This is another one. I have this. I see this a lot. And if you go to Glazer Nation, you'll see it all consistently. Is that there's a certain attitude that Glazers have. Is that they want to be the best. They want to brag. They want to be cocky. They want to call each other out. And I don't think it has to do with any one person's ego at all. I think it's just like a community thing. It's like we all learn from each other. Like, you put a good dog in a pack with bad dogs, they kind of act the same. So I kind of fell into this trap because I want to be the best, of course. And so, whatever, that's just the way it is. And so when I moved into the office, I would like kind of like brag about my skills. And my boss had to basically pull me in and say, hey, man, like, I know how it is out there in the field. Everybody wants to, brag about their skills and be cocky, but you got to tone it down. Like, nobody wants to hear that. Like, let your skills speak for themselves. Basically told me, don't suck your own dick,
Ha!
what he said.
Flip
And
that
so
up.
yeah. And so, by the way, the guy who told me that was my mentor back then. His name was Bobby Barron, and he's my boss today, right? So, shout out to you, Bobby. He doesn't watch the shit at all, but if you do, hi. Yeah. So he told me that years and years ago, and then we're still working together today. And now it's my turn to tell the next guys, and I see it too. Like I have guys that we bring out of the field that we want to train to measure, and you just got to tell them like you got to tone it down now. You know, you're in the office, you got to take it easy. Don't be bragging. You don't got to call people. You know, it's just a different like mindset, mind shift, and attitude. Go being a cocky installer to a professional that works with office personnel and customers, right?
Game recognizes game. You don't have I think we were all like that at one point, but I quickly realized the same thing. Like that just doesn't that rubs more people off than it brings in, that's for sure. Like
Yeah,
let your
and
work
it's
speak for
very,
itself.
very Glazers. That's specifically like I've noticed because I was in it. Like I see it now. I see it from the outside. Like if you go out in Glazer Nation, there's somebody posts something cool. Like 10 Glazers want to call him out and say, "Oh, you that looks horrible. I
Yeah,
do it. Should have did this," instead of lifting him up or giving compliments. Right? I don't really see that anywhere else. It's kind of crazy.
yeah. Well, that's our job. We'll do that. Let the haters hate.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this was extremely fun, and I'm very appreciative that you're allowing me on this platform because I know what how much time goes into editing this, and so I'm grateful that you allowed me to come on here and tell my story and talk with you.
Well, I'm grateful that you joined, and I would like to do it again and
Anytime.
again and again. Yeah, let me get these edits together, get them out. And then now that we have episode one, we're calling this episode one
Let's
origin stories and content origin stories. So now we got to let some things happen in our lives and our companies. And then on the next episode, we could talk about what's new, what's next. And that's it.
let's go.
All right, buddy. Well, thanks for being here. Holy shit, dude. I'm looking at the timer and it's been an hour and 4 minutes.